I have to say that my heart goes out, and that of all of my colleagues here at Kean University, to the testimonies of the martyrs, children of martyrs, and the freedom fighters who lost their lives or who were terribly wounded during the 1971 atrocities. Those testimonies are very important. What's also very important is the work of scholars and journalists who have put together large numbers of documentary films and books about what has transpired during that period of time. We're very fortunate to have with us today Mr. Shahriar Kabir, author of more than 70 books, a filmmaker who will tell us about the atrocities.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The paper I prepared for this conference titled The Intolerable Sufferings of 71. I'm sorry that I couldn't bring more copies, but you may find it in our website, that is secularvoiceofbangladesh.org. And it's a long paper. Let me read a few paragraphs first, then I'll make some comments. As you know, if we look into the history of the war, in the history of the 3,000 years of wars, the Second World War was the most terrible one. 20 million people were killed in this great war, over 5 continents in 5 years, and people 100 times greater than this number suffered terribly. In the post-Second World War, the sufferings and killings that is considered most horrendous is the liberation war of Bangladesh that took place in 71. The war continued for 9 months and was confined to Bangladesh of 56,000 square miles area. In respect of the time and place, the loss incurred due to the war of 1971 is undoubtedly higher than any other war. Mankind around the globe is all aware of the Holocaust of the Second World War, based on the atrocities of Nazi army of Hitler in the concentration camps, killing people, burning them alive in the gas chambers, destroying human habitats completely by bombing and other barbaric and cruel activities. Thousands of books have been published and hundreds of films have been produced. A few hundred museums have been founded in many countries of the world to make the future progeny informed about the horrendous effect of the World War. During the Second World War, unique events of chivalry was also accomplished, which are very significant in military history. But common people have stored the Holocaust of the war in their mind permanently more than the heroism. People have read Anne Frank's diary more than that of General Patton's unequal heroism in military history. In spite of the loss of life and destruction of the property being very high, the people of the world know very little about the liberation war of Bangladesh. One of the reasons for this is that Bangladesh had to fight against Pakistan, which was very powerful in military might. In this war, only India and Soviet Union and a few countries who were allies of the Soviet Union were in favor of Bangladesh. On the other hand, in support of Pakistan, there were the United States of America, a superpower like China and Western world, and most of the Muslim countries of the world. The United States of America and most of the governments of the Western world were in favor of Pakistan, as a result of which Pakistani striking army and the religious fundamentalists and collaborators committed many war crimes. They especially committed genocide and crimes against humanity, but these were always shown with lesser intensity and volume. Still, from what a few researchers of the West and eyewitnesses, journalists have written in 1971 and 72 and afterwards, an idea can be derived about the intensity of these atrocities. Senator Edward Kennedy, Congressman Cornelius Gallagher, and Congressman Adlai Stevenson of the United States of America and other people representative of different countries visited Bangladesh during wartime and after the war, and most of them became astounded, aggrieved, and shocked seeing the cruelty of the warmongering Pakistanis. I may recall the Congressman Gallagher, who was from this place, you know, he was a congressman from New Jersey. There was a report published at that time, it was in, I think, Newsweek. Let me quote a few lines from that report. It was published on June 28, 1971, titled The Terrible Bloodbath of Tika Khan. And here they mentioned about Cornelius Gallagher's account of the war. It says, New Jersey Congressman Cornelius Gallagher, who visited the Agartala hospital, says he came to India thinking the atrocity stories were exaggerated. But when he actually saw the wounded, he began to believe that, if anything, the reports have been toned down. A much decorated officer with baton in Europe during Second World War, Gallagher told the reporter of Newsweek, quote, in the war, I saw the worst areas of France, the killing grounds in Normandy, but I never saw anything like that. It took all of my strength to keep from breaking down and crying. That is what Gallagher said, and you know what Senator Edward Kennedy and other congressmen who visited those refugee camps during the war, and after the war, they came to Bangladesh and they mentioned about their experiences, what they said, and most of them, they said that that is the most horrendous experience they had, those who have witnessed the Holocaust of Second World War. There are many accounts, of the Bangladeshi victims, though I said that if you compare with the other wars, it is not much in number, but still, if you look into the government document, that is Shadinota Juddhe Dolil Potra, the documents of the Liberation War, published by Bangladesh government, in the volume 8, it is the stories. There are nearly 300 stories published by the government of Bangladesh, and these are all first-hand accounts. What you have heard here, and there are many, many thousands and thousands of stories like this all around the Bangladesh. As I said that during the war, during the Liberation War, you will not find a single family in Bangladesh that has lost a near and dear member of their family. So this was the scenario of Bangladesh at that time. And still there are, thousands of killing fields. When the last time when Army League was in power, they constituted a body to look into identify the killing fields. At that time, I was a member of that committee, and we found more than 3,000 killing fields, where the number of killings were from 100 to 20,000. And one of the killing fields, I can tell you, that is Chuknagar. In a single day, that is 20th May 1971, within a span of few hours, more than 10,000 people were being killed brutally by the Pakistani armies. So this was the pattern of killing, and those who were killed during the Liberation War, and most of the families are still suffering. That is the most tragic part of Bangladesh genocide, that the women who were being tortured, who were being raped during the war, unfortunately, most of them, because of the social condition and other things, they are suffering. They cannot narrate their story till now. 38 years have been passed. I can quote one report published at that time in Banglarbani. As you know, that government, the official figure is more than 200,000, nearly 250,000, but the unofficial figure is much more than that. It was mentioned by one Australian doctor who visited Bangladesh at that time. His name is Dr. Geoffrey Davis. So he mentioned in his report, let me read a few lines from the report.